our market over the week fell, I think, nearly 4%. How are we placed going into next week?
I think we are started to feeling a little bit nervous about the next week election result. And to be quite frank, we probably won't know the actual result for another 2-3 weeks after the actual election day. So market is getting a bit nervous. There's a quite a meaningful sign of profit taking across some of the winners over the last 3 to 6 months. And what's interesting is that we just seen lack of support for many stocks, simply because of lack of confidence, and combine this with the increase in the second wave, and also the lockdown news out of the UK, European markets as well. So it's getting people a bit nervous.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the nightmare scenario for the market would be some disagreement over the US results, and then you get protests and unrest and mayhem.
That will be the worst case scenario. You're absolutely right. Quite frankly, we look at the policy on both sides. Once we have a clear winner, market will like the both side of election because of the stimulus packages, enormous stimulus package is coming through. So with low interest rate, I think it looks pretty good. But in the worst case scenario, with no result, then that will be a fair bit of uncertainty heading into the year end.
Yeah, I want to get your take because there's some really big corporate moves this last week. AMP, of course, received a non-binding offer from an American fund manager. Now, how do you see this? I mean, is this the end for AMP as a listed company, do we think?
Look, AMP certainly, what you certainly hope the takeover will spark a bit more interest from other buyers, because for AMP, they have really gone through significant disruptions for its business, with pretty much, not a complete board as well as executive team. And the company itself has put itself on a block for sale for the last few weeks. And, as shareholders, you do really hope that this will hopefully bring out more interest in this business, because the underlying momentum is not going well. We've seen the outflow, significant outflow. We've seen the retail outflow, and we've seen institutional investor pulling money out of their support. So I guess this is probably the best you can hope for this business to be taken private.
Yeah, shares up 20%, I notice, on expectation there. Look, we've had one bank result this last week, ANZ. We've got two more coming up next week. How do you see the sort of provisioning that ANZ has made and the other two may well make? Also, we've got that cliff potentially in March, and we've got some quantitative easing maybe next Tuesday with the RBA decision.
That's right. You actually just point out quite a lot of forces at play for the banks and our economy. Ultimately, the ANZ result was surprisingly good, to be honest. Not meaningfully good, but this is the first result out of a bank that actually hasn't disappointed over the last 12 to 18 months. Whether it's a sign of things to come, there's a possibility if we don't face that cliff. So in terms of provisioning, it's not a surprise given the challenges we've been through, the pandemic, the recession. But some of the data in terms of the capital position is pretty strong. So that's very likely that the dividend could return, or the suspended dividend for the interim could return. And that means for the rest of the banking sector, we are looking at big dividend yield on a 12-month view. So that bodes pretty positively for the sector. In terms of the bad debt, it doesn't look too bad, and in terms of the the people still on mortgage holiday, we think the banks talk to the very high likelihood of most of them return to normal to start paying their mortgages. And on the commercial front, things are actually looking improving. So all in all, actually pretty decent result out of a bank.
Right. Well, very interesting. We'll be talking to Peter King from Westpac tomorrow, so we'll see what he's got to say about it all. Must ask you too about Myer. They had a first strike, not the first time they've had a first or a second strike, actually, but certainly Solomon Lew continuing to grind on. Do you think it's possible that we're going to see another takeover down the track?
Look, I don't see the significant probability for takeover. So certainly Solomon Liu has already got the control of the business, well, a significant support and control of the business. And I don't see significant premium to be paid for this asset, just given the control he has, and he's already been a meaningful shareholder. I think buying any retail asset, this is actually a great time for undervalued asset like Maya, because the business is still turning around in the middle of the pandemic, and with large footprints, I do think there is value in this brand. It's a very strong brand, been around for a long time. If anyone knows how to turn around, perhaps Solomon Liu with his management team that has experience in running those retail assets can do a good job.